Hey guys, welcome back to Daska Discusses. Well, I just saw 1917, Sam Mendes' new film, so I thought, well, I want to do a quick spoiler-free review on it. So let's do this. Now, I'll tell you what, I was a bit annoyed with myself that I didn't get to catch this by the end of 2019, so I just managed to see it, but I'll tell you what, Sam Mendes does bring in the goods with this quite epic drama between two men in World War I that are given an impossible kind of mission to deliver a message to a certain part of, I guess you could say, the trenches, right? And well, from the get-go, the first thing you notice straight away is the cinematography, right? Now, meaning that, yes, they all say it's all taken in kind of one shot, or they're kind of perceived to be like that. But yeah, I'd give it that. The first, like, opening scene where you see the guys, again, not giving out spoilers here, but you know, when you've got this army guy telling them, look, someone needs to talk to you, and these two guys get up and it just follows them through all the trenches. That was quite amazing how they did all that. And I managed to, as a media studies and as a film studies like teacher, keep an eye on when these edits could have happened. So I was really interested in that. So yeah, let's just focus on the story for a second. So in terms of the story, you've got two characters, Blake and Schofield, who are given this message by an army general, you know, their superiors, saying, look, you need to deliver this message deep into enemy territory where we've got, you know, one of our kind of bases sitting there, or, you know, I don't want to get into it too much because it's going to give away it's going to give it away, but they're basically given this hard message to send off, and it's going to be difficult to get there. So it's kind of like this kind of epic journey. Now, it's a lot different to other war films per se. I mean, it is based in World War I, so again, with the cinematography, the way it goes about, you know, filming it with that whole kind of long, continuous one-shot technique, where I was keeping an eye on where these edits are, and you know, if you're cluey enough, you'll be able to see where they could have done some sort of edits like that. Now, it was amazing. The cinematography in this was amazing. The acting by the two main characters actually do a really good job, and you know, you can see the desperation in them, and you can see that, you know, it's actually like, it feels like you're there. Now, in a mixture of the cinematography with the acting and the soundtrack, no editing per se, obviously, because it's all in this kind of one shot, but the clever way Sam Mendes went around, and his editor went around to doing this, was really interesting. Now, again, don't want to give away too much of like specific scenes, but halfway through the film, you know, you think, okay, it's 2 hours long, how are they going to continue on with this, you know, one continuous kind of shot kind of way? Now, halfway through the film, you know, major things kind of happen. Again, not spoiling anything, but when that happens, you're like, whoa, I remember seeing it, I'm like, okay, so we're going down this path now. How are we actually going to do this? So our characters go from place to place trying to deliver this message where, you know, day goes to night at some points as well. And it just, you know, the tempo and I guess the intensity of the film really does increase by like the last half hour especially. So the good points for me were the brilliant cinematography. Soundtrack was great. The acting by these two guys, I think their names are Dean Charles Chapman and George McKay, whatever. Those were the good points. Now, not so much saying the bad points of the film, right? Because it's a brilliant film. 1917 is a brilliant film, but the points that really, you know, from it being like a 10 out of 10, which is like, you know, epic kind of score, obviously, what keeps it from being in that high threshold for me, and I'll get to my rating in a second, is the following. I think that there was a bit of after that first hour point, there was a few little scenes which kind of like dragged on a bit. Now, you can say it's because of pacing. You can't have action sequences non-stop, and you know, I understand that, but at times I'm like, okay, look, let's just speed up a couple of scenes a bit quicker than what it was, right? So that was one little thing. The other part I felt was that in the first hour, my suspension of disbelief was, you know, it was fine. Like, I was like, okay, I can actually believe what's happening here, it's all good. You know, wow, okay, they got away from that, this happened, they lived through that. I'm like, all right, you know, fair enough. I think it was in the second hour where things started to get a bit more dangerous for our characters, where I was just like, okay, look, I don't know how much of a bad shot these Germans are, but you know, if you're sitting there trying to cross a bridge and a sniper's shooting at you and you kind of like miss every single shot, I'm kind of like, all right, well, you know, maybe you got through that. It wasn't just that sniper part. There was other parts where I'm just like, okay, there is no way you could do that and not get killed somehow. You can't outrun this, you can't jump over that, you can't do this. There was a few too many bits like that for me in the second half of the film, which took me out of the film itself, which is a real shame, because up until the first hour I was like really engrossed in it, but in that second hour I'm just finding these little bits that just didn't add up for me. And the last part, which I think took me out of the film as well, was, you know, right at the last act of the film, when we finally get to our destination in this conclusion, right, where we're gonna meet someone, you know, of high importance, and the person turns around and, well, it's not just him, but without spoiling anything, in the last act, from up until this point, we've got all these actors that, you know, I've never seen them before acting anything, and it gives you that sense of realism. When you get to that last 20 minutes of the film, you're introduced into these cameos of famous actors that you'll know if you watch Game of Thrones or you're a Marvel fan, which again, I'm like, oh, look, it's such and such, and oh, wow, look, it's him. And I'm like, especially in these emotional impacted scenes, it kind of took me out of the film seeing these certain celebrities in there. Where up until this point, you've had these guys who I've never seen before in a film, and it had that sense of realism, and you get these two celebrity cameos at the end of the film, which took me out of it completely. You know, maybe you think, you know, oh, Daska, you're definitely like pulling at straws here. Well, look, that's what I say. But in terms of 1917, as an overall film, it definitely deserves to be in the Best Picture nominated films for like the Oscars, and it did win the Golden Globe for that as well, for Best Drama. So that's pretty good in itself. Now, in terms of taking Best Picture, I don't know, I've still got to watch Marriage Story and Parasite before I make the decision. In terms of my rating for 1917, it's definitely a great film, and if you're into war films as well, you really enjoy it as well. But even if you're not into war films, I think it just does take hold of you, and it doesn't let go till the end. A few little bits do kind of like take it away from that 10 out of 10 for me. But again, it kind of like, it's a mixture of, and I've seen Gallipoli, the Aussie film about, you know, World War I as well, with Mel Gibson trying to get messages, especially that last scene with Mel Gibson kind of reminds me a lot of the whole film of 1917. A bit of, everyone's comparing it to Private Ryan. I don't see that. Thin Red Line maybe a bit as well, but this is its own kind of World War I film. Out of 10, I'm going to give 1917, with all that I've said, a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Yep. 1917, directed by Sam Mendes, a solid 8 out of 10. Let me know what you thought, guys, in the comments below. If you liked the video, please leave a like. Yeah, for sure, let me know what you thought in the comments. Was I wrong on my rating, or did you find the same things wrong with it or right with it? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to stay up to date with my videos, then make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Daska Discusses. Boom.